Marcus and Nick's dev interview, mercenary class changes, guild events everywhere. These topics and more coming up on this episode of the Escape Podcast for Star Wars The Old Republic. Our broadcast hashtag today is EPC 304. And playing alongside me is Seema. Hi, Seema. How's it going? I was so happy I got through the first part of the the intro today. I forgot to press the astromech button and forgot how to talk to you. But I was pretty pleased that I got through that first part finally for the first time without messing it up. So there you go. How are ya?
Points. I'm good. I'm good. We are actually recording on Thursday night this week, so we did that because we put our faith in the PTS, which we shouldn't have.
Nope.
Because we wanted to be on the PTS tonight because we wanted to show the new UI for the mats and the legacy-wide mats and some other things, but we're not going to do that. We're going to catch up on some other stuff. But this week, I did not make a super amount of progress on Summer of 300 because two reasons. One is I'm so close now. I feel like I can do it anytime. So I'm just going to do it later.
That's not dangerous at all.
That is very strong in me right now. But the real reason, and we're going to talk about this more, is I spent some time this week in other games, just visiting. Just visiting with low-level characters. So, but it's actually kind of exhausting to download a game, look at that your what the buttons do, learn how to walk around and shoot things or fly or whatever you do in the game, and so that's what we're gonna talk about later. MFN this week we did some more datacrons. I'm amazed we did datacrons last week and then this week, and we still haven't done all the datacrons. There's still probably as many datacrons left as datacrons we've done. But
who still needs datacrons? Why would we do that?
I think the people who need datacrons are the ones that haven't been playing this game since day one, maybe.
They're the ones that say I can do it later.
Yes. Oh, yes, that's right. I forgot. You were missing a lot of the datacrons.
Missing all the datacrons. Going to every single one of these planets.
Dropped the ball on that
one. Both last week and this week, we went to Terrace, and I needed like 3 of the 5 datacrons. I'm like, don't have this one either. Don't have this one. Now I'm only missing 8, but I seriously think I got 10 in the last 2 weeks. I'm missing 2 on Corellia, Hoth, Ilum. Look at all these. Tatooine. Why am I missing one on Tatooine? What the heck? I must have done all of these before they tracked. I don't know.
That's totally it, Max.
I'm missing a mastery datacron on Tatooine. That's impossible. I have done Tatooine 17 times. I used to seek them out. They used to be No, Tatooine. No, I'm thinking of Hutta. I don't know. What is this one on Tatooine? I don't know. All right. Well, so it's been good. It's been good times. So thank you for everybody that's been helping organize that.
Yeah. So we kind of smoothed it out by, I say we. When I say we, I mean Coralie, and last week B. Kavanaugh arranged it so that we had people at each of the datacrons they went to. So we just did ship summons. So it wasn't the datacron game like it used to be with wall jumping and stuff. It was hang out and drink beer and dance and wait for someone to summon you. It was pretty fun.
Yeah, that's the way to do it.
And then we did a couple of sets of rampages too. So we made some headway into Conquest. Pretty much everyone, I think, got their personal target that night that was there. And then just now tonight, we just finished our ops team, Lords of Light, or LOL. And we've been doing this pattern for the last few weeks where we do the Queen on Osis in story mode on the imp side, and then we do it on the pub side for mirror gear. We're trying to gear up a couple people. and then we then we go, now what do you want to do? So so tonight we went and did the outdoor boss on Zyos. We kind of had the idea of doing the lair boss there, but we didn't get that far. So this week was Queen Zyos. Um, and then Max said, "Well, what do you say we do a podcast?" And I'm like, "Oh, really?"
What? That's new. Never heard of that before.
Yes. Um,
Wow.
so that's bringing you up to the present there, Max. Oh, I know a lot about your week too, but
Yeah.
how was your week?
My week has been exciting. I was just looking, you mentioned we did a little bit of rampaging and things on Tuesday. Here it is Thursday, and our guild is, I was going to say 5, but now it's 3,000 away from hitting our large target again. So
Wow.
somebody's racking up the points. Somebody just racked up another
I
2,000 points
really
while
like the
I was
pace of
sitting here.
conquest.
Yeah, this has been good. It's not going to be this fast in 6.0, but they said it'll still be a good clip. Probably not 100% of the pace that it's at right now, though.
I really feel like the way it is now, though, we make our target just by playing the game, whereas before I was logging in and saying, okay, I need to do rampages on this character today because
Right,
finished them on the other character the other day, and
right, right. We had to work at it to make like medium targets and go
right.
do specific things and check things off the list and have a list of things that you have to go do. Whereas now we can all just play the game and it's racking up the points and which is kind of
Yeah.
cool. So yes, I have been doing all the things. The mandatory fun night, getting a bunch of those datacrons, as I said. I'm surprising myself every time I would get another one because I do have a ton of datacrons, and I used to go and seek some of them out, but I just did not get a lot of them. It's one of those things, as you said, I can do it later. It's one of those things where if they said in 6.0 we're taking out datacrons, I would go get all the datacrons. But because it's not, eh, I'll go, I'll get them at some point. And now here it is 6 years later, and that some point hasn't come up yet. It's kind of fun that other people are dragging me along and getting them done. So that was good. We'll talk.
I like how you're suggesting that you did them in the past, but someone came and took them away from you.
It must be a bug that they got.
Must be fun.
They dropped out of my list somehow. I should submit a ticket. That's what I should do. I should submit a ticket. I did a little traveling this week. I was gonna try to put the word out and try to get a little meetup going, but I never know when I'm flying in the night before to do I had a speaking engagement on this morning actually in Columbus. I didn't know if I would need to be prepping and doing things. I ended up getting a little bit bored and was a little bit disappointed that I didn't set up something up last night in Columbus. If anybody had been around, even though it might not have been anybody around, I'm going to have to just go ahead and pull the trigger on that more often because that would have been fun. But now I'm back and made it back in time for our ops night, made it back in time for our podcast, made it back in time for the PTS to not be up, which we were hoping that it would be. So hopefully it will be up tomorrow. And that's sort of what they promised on the Working Class Nerds podcast dev interview, which went off brilliantly earlier today. And we'll talk about that in a little bit as
Yeah,
well. But they said it should be up tomorrow, which should give us then the weekend to play a little bit, to roll up the bounty hunter that I want to roll up over there and try out some of the tacticals and try out my abilities and try out our new ability that we'll talk about in a second. And hopefully it won't be down then on Tuesday because I'd like us also to broadcast from there. And when we tried to do that last week, it suddenly went down on, Monday or Tuesday during the day. And we were like, oh.
it's
So
a conspiracy.
it is. It's a conspiracy. And I even sent a little note to Eric saying, it would be great if it was up on Thursday because we're going to do our podcast. And it didn't happen. So thanks, Eric. I'm sure he was completely in control and purposefully pushed it off. All right, so that's what I've been doing. Why don't we check out what's been going on in the news?
Now, an Imperial News Network report.
So first up in the news is a post that they put up a few days back that said, hey, we're adding a new bit of tech into the game called scaling technology. And so what they said was, we're going to work out a way so that group content, and this is operations for the most part, but also flashpoints, will be scale locked to some degree, so that as they come out with additional gear tiers, or as you add additional levels, or you get your abilities changed, the content will always remain sort of uh, locked to something that's challenging, and they won't have to keep redoing that content constantly. It'll still remain relevant, and then they can let it still drop relevant rewards and gear and that kind of thing, which is fine. They said they're going to tweak story mode, veteran, and master. They want story mode to be easy. In fact, they intend story mode to be as easy as it is today, or even in some cases a little bit easier, is sort of the feeling I was getting. Veteran, they want to be challenging, even for coordinated groups. Possible in pugs, but more likely to be completed by coordinated groups. And master mode or nightmare mode to be the hardest content in the game. So fine. The part of this that we did get a little bit clarified in the Working Class Nerds podcast interview was that the mechanism for how this was going to work, which I was unclear on. It did show up on the PTS a little bit, and I didn't get a chance to play it, but a couple of people did. They talked about it. They posted some notes in the forums. Matt on the interview clarified it a little bit. What it sounds like is they're going to take the operations, they're going to lock them at the level that they were always intended for. So take EV and KP, for example. They're going to be locked at level 50. And then they've got a dial that they're going to tune that's going to level and gear and ability cap, power cap players. They're going to you're going to be level synced down to those operations then when you go in. No matter how powerful you'll get, you'll be level synced, gear synced, and power synced back down to that level when you go into it.
So I don't get why they call this new tech, because it sounds just like how they do planetary scaling now.
Kind of, yeah. It does. I bet it's new code that they have to make specifically for the operations. So
Yeah,
maybe they
yeah.
can't just. It's not part
I
of the
guess they have to
planetary code.
like take out bolster and do this instead.
Right. So there's pros and cons to this, and Seema and I were batting it around a little bit before the podcast earlier in the night. The pros are that they will be able to maintain this older content in a way that makes it continue to be relevant, and they can still have it be part of conquest, and they can still have it be part of gear drops and your personal loot that'll be dropping. It won't get to the point, and it'll never end up where like I could be soloing Karaga's Palace, and that which could end up breaking things. However, what you don't get is a situation where I could solo Karaga's Palace, which
Yes. Yeah.
and in some situations that could potentially be useful, or we might want it to get to that point. We might in a world where we were getting a new operation once every couple months, it would be okay that I could go back and solo Karaga's Palace. And
Like maybe you never got the
yeah,
Taco Bell hat and you wanted it.
right. And it's still a rare drop, and I could go and solo it once a week and try to get the Taco Bell hat. So there's downsides to it as well. And I
But one big plus is that going forward, like post 6.0, rather than having to level the operations up to the max level every time, which can introduce errors and shifts that affect how it's balanced, they won't have to do that.
right, right. In theory, it'll be locked, and your scale down will be locked, and all will be well, and max level. All my characters max level. I had to throw that in.
Yes, Starry Saber, a practice mode of ops boss fights would be totally awesome. So you could see the mechanics and see the telegraphs and explore the room and know where to stand. Yeah, I like that idea.
So that's somewhat clarified. Get on the PTS. In theory, we'll be able to try it. In theory, it's on the PTS now. A little bit of this scaling tech. I think for EV and KP, get a group together, try it out, give them the feedback. I do hope that story mode is quite easy. Veteran modes are challenging, but not overly challenging. I want veteran modes to be, for an average group, to be a challenge but completable within 2 hours. That would be my nice target. So that's something we could strive to do on a MFN. We could do story modes. I want story modes to be something you could sort of do in an hour. I want veteran modes to be something you could do in 2 hours with a group that sort of knows what they're doing, and then
and is involved and is in voice.
and is in voice and is coordinated. And then master
Yeah.
modes, I'm fine with that being, crank it up to 11.
Inaccessible.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. What else we got?
So also, Eric opened the threads for the mercenary ability, tactical item, and set bonuses, as well as the power tech. So we're hoping to get a chance to play with all those when the PTS is back up. But the thread is there now for people to read and provide feedback before they try it.
Right.
So, yeah.
This is now
It's like
getting interesting to me, and I
yeah,
think
because
too,
this is
the
what we
class
play. Yeah.
So I get what they're going for here. I took a quick glance. I get a little
I know
disappointed
the
for
names of the
parts of it. So we won't drill into this in too much detail, but I did want to call out a couple quick things and see what you had to say about this too, Seema. So Merc, I play Merc. That's my main on the Imperial side. This first line, first thing up, first up in the hole. This is what you're gonna get. New ability. Your new ability is you don't get a new ability, basically. Yeah, new ability dash. In lieu of a new ability, mercenaries will now have 2 charges on rocket out. Okay, fine. And I read some of the threads, some of the feedback threads, and people are saying, "Oh, hey, that's great." I think there's 2 perspectives for the people that are saying it's great. One is, hey, we got a whole lot of abilities. Another ability to stick on your bar and work into your rotation. That doesn't sound that great anyway. And 2, if I play PvP, 2 charges on rocket out, thumbs up. That sounds good. It gives me a lot more mobility. Yeah, I can get away from those marauders that keep leaping to me, and the guardians and whatever. So great. However, if you're not a PvPer, what's my least used ability? Well, not least used. I use rocket out in Eternity
it's
Vault.
niche too. Yeah.
Because we all run in when all the rockets rain down, and then we even call it rocket out. That's our voice command for all the mercenaries in the game, to use that one ability on that one fight in that one way. That's the fight that I use rocket out on. Nowhere else. I don't use it. I don't use it in any other operation. I don't think. There's got to be some other operation that it would be fun to use. And then I use it to play rocket out roulette with Seema on the edge of
Right.
platforms on
Yeah.
Odessan. Did you ever play that? That's a good game, if we haven't explained that before.
Yep.
So yeah, what did you think of that, Seema?
I don't have a use for 2 charges of rocket out.
Especially a healer.
In
Well,
PvE,
I guess.
if you rocket out twice, you're going to be so far away from everyone else. So I guess in the sense of maybe having it, the second charge available if you need it for some, I don't know.
Yeah.
I was hoping for a tactical, well, you guys know this, but I was hoping for a tactical where your rocket out would blast you forward. I think that would have been super cool.
There's one tactical that seems to synergize with extra charge of rocket out, which is this first one, which is cool your jets. Rocket out vents 20 heat and immobilizes enemies around you for 1 second. So it could actually be useful in the rotation to be using, depending on the math, to be using rocket out if I'm going to vent 20 heat, and if that waste of that global cooldown vents enough heat that my rotation does more damage overall, then fine, maybe that's interesting. But then I was looking through, and that's the only one of all of these possible tactical items, which aren't even all the tactical items that will be available. But here's 8 or 7 tactical items if you include the 4 of the base and the 3 for each of the specs. There's only one that even synergizes with that. It's like, yeah, I'm really not impressed. For PvP, great, but without PvP, who cares? I'm never going to use it. I'm certainly never going to use the second charge. So, oh well.
Yeah.
Little some of this other stuff sounds interesting. Again, I'm afraid, as I said before with some of these set bonuses, depending on how these set bonuses shake out with the math, there's going to be we may end up with, okay, if you're doing master mode content, this is the set bonus you have to have, because mathematically this is the set bonus that adds the most damage to your boss rotation. So just go and get this set bonus, go and get this tactical item. No fun for you. This is what you need to do. And I think it's going to end up being that way by looking at either Power Surge grants precision targeting, which increases armor penetration by 10% for 6 seconds, and Power Surge gets an additional charge. That sounds relatively powerful. Depending on the difference between that and this one, where Power Shot, Tracer Missile, and Rapid Scan grants a stack of power steps, stacking up to 5 times, and at the 5th time, you get a no heat shot of Power Shot, Tracer Missile, or Rapid Scan, and it's quote unquote more effective. However much more effective it is versus Power Surge getting an additional charge and 10% armor pen. One of those is going to be kind of good for DPS, and whichever one is better is going to be the one that I think groups are going to say, why aren't you using this one? You're dumb if you don't. So, which then is boring. So we'll see. Hopefully it's not, you don't get into that situation where this is the one that you use, and if you're not using it, then you're dumb, and you're doing, and you're literally you're sacrificing 5% of your damage, your possible damage output, so that you can, so that you can do something else, so that you can rock it out an extra time or whatever. So I don't know. We'll play with it. We'll see what it looks like. Same thing for Power Tech. We'll see what it looks like. I did like the new ability for Power Tech. That seemed relatively powerful for tanks and for PvP. Not for Power Tech DPS as much, but increases your armor by 40% and your damage done by 2% for 10 seconds, and getting attacked during this time adds an additional stack up to 5 times for 200% armor and 10% damage done. Both for a tank and for PvP, that sounds useful. That's a nice little ability. For a new ability, okay, that's something I can work with. So we'll see. And I didn't even, sorry, Seema, I didn't even look at the healer stuff. Did you look at any of the healer stuff?
I did. I mean, for me,
will it help you to heal me? Because that's, if it helps you to heal me, then I care. So how will it help you heal me?
Well, now I'm stumped. But, yeah.
Well, because you don't heal me.
That's correct. The one that stands out for me is Alacrity Scan. Rapid Scan can be cast while moving and heals an additional 10%. Because I'm a sucker for those things that you can do while you're moving. I don't know, numbers wise, whether that's going to be an appreciable improvement, but it's the kind of thing that'll affect my gameplay in a way that I like.
Right. Yeah, you're right. That does look useful, but you're right. It'll be a difference between that and something like this next one, which is Colto time. Colto time. Colto time. Colto shot applies.
Colto shot.
Yeah.
And you do end up using it a lot because that's part of how you manage heat. But and the one above it too, Supercharged Burst, might actually be more, healing throughput. So we'll have to see.
Yeah. So, but yeah, we just don't know yet, because this is applies a lingering heal over time effect to its target. Well, if it's a hot which heals 10 damage per minute, right, well then no, that will suck. If it heals, 50% of their health, well, then it's going to be amazing and it's going to outshine these other two. Right? So we
Yes.
won't know.
That's right.
All right.
I think it's going to be small.
Small. It's not the size of the count, Seema.
Yeah.
Well, actually, it is in healing.
Yeah.
So there's that. But it's also how you use it. In community news, some very good friends of ours, Marcus and Nick, Working Class Nerds podcast, also an Aleact Est Guild podcast. They had an amazing interview today. Not only was it entertaining, but it was informative. So they
Yeah.
had Eric and Daniel Steed, Eric Musco, Daniel Steed, and Matt Pusevich in a really cool interview, which I really liked. I really, really liked it. So you listened some, Seema. I
Yes.
listened as well. A couple things that I really liked hearing about was I liked the color commentary, which was, what's your process? How do you go about doing it? Do you start, hey Matt, do you start at story mode and build on that, or do you start at master mode and nerf it to get to story mode? And he talked about a couple different instances. I thought that was really cool. Like he said, what did he say? I think he was talking about the Tithe fight, and he said that sort of started in the middle, and then scaled it down for story and scaled it up for master. Cool. More importantly, and we already covered it a little bit, I liked hearing about the details of scaling, both why they're doing it, what the mechanics are, because I was unclear. I had questions. I was throwing questions around the interwebs and in our guild chat. How is that scaling going to work? We got to hear it from Matt. I think that was important. And then yeah, they got a little scoop at the end, kind of, didn't they? We got one of the bosses confirmed. First boss confirmed. What did he call it? Cherry Cephas? was the picture? I think that's what they called the picture that got released. I'll bring up that picture while we're talking to Seema, of the Cherry Cephas, because that also got posted on Reddit. So it's one of the, in the trailer that they showed in the flyby, they showed it off. They didn't confirm up to this point that it was going to be one of the bosses, but this is now confirmed that Cherry Cephas is first boss. It's the crested, yeah, here it is. It's this crested dinosaur-looking thing is first boss. Excellent. So excellent job even getting a scoop there, Marcus, who's in the chat room right now. Yeah, entertained and informed. So Cherry Cephas, and then I don't know if he was joking. Matt.
He might be joking. Just saying, it's possible.
Is he never not? I mean, some stuff happens to be fact that he ends up saying, and I don't know if that's accidental, even though he's attempting to troll nearly 100% of the time. But he named off other code words like blueberry Cephas and and lime Cephas. So I don't know where they're going for, but this is Cherry Cephas, code name Cherry Cephas, and that's going to be the first boss. So cool. Did you have any other comments on that? I recommend everybody goes and
not on Cherry Cephas, although it makes me think of the different colors for the mechanical keyboards, and I was going to say this boss is like more tactile, but doesn't make as much noise or something like that.
No, the cherry makes a lot of noise. Like Corley's making fun of me for typing with my open mic constantly. But I do not have a mechanical keyboard. I have nice, quiet little chiclet keys.
I liked Matt's story about Nightmare Bridge and Scum and Villainy because I actually had to look that up because I didn't know what the Nightmare Bridge was, what the change in Nightmare mode. Well, also I like the whole little discussion about how they call it Nightmare mode too.
Right.
And all their tools still say Nightmare mode. But they can't change it back to Nightmare mode because they'd have to change it in too many places. I think it'd just be a lot of work, but oh well. But yeah, so um, I looked at my achievements. I don't have the achievement for Nightmares Cyrac for some reason. So maybe I never went across the bridge. But the bridge we're talking about is the bridge to Styrac, and it has two holes in it. But in nightmare mode, the art makes it look like the holes have been filled in, but they haven't. Which sounds very Matt to me.
It's very Matt. That is awesome. That's hilarious. Yeah, so good job, guys. I recommend everybody go listen to that interview. And makes me want to do an interview, Seema.
Find out the truth about Swedish fish, or do you?
Yes, there's a teaser. There's a teaser for you. So, also in community news, happy birthday to Fibro Jedi. Fibro Jedi
Hey, happy birthday.
is a blogger, a SWTOR blogger who has recently become a content creator. So he's joined the official content creator community with BioWare, and longtime blogger,
Welcome.
and does some really excellent content. So look up Fibro Jedi on Twitter and on his blog on the web, and some really good pieces that he puts together to sort of supplement the game. So, and happy birthday today. So there you go. Guild news we will skip over because we're going to talk quite a bit about it in our segment. But I will let Seema do a shout out to our awesome chat room before I
Yeah.
move on.
Yes. In fact, this very night, chat room caught the fact that my audio was not coming through at all. So thank you, chat room. I would have had a really fruitless night if everything I said was invisible.
Yes.
I wouldn't have called any audibles.
We would not have called an audible. We would have had to put a pin in Seema and put her in the
I
parking
would have
lot.
been calling all inaudibles. But yes, thank you, chat room, for being here. I love you, and you always have great comments for us. So thank you.
And the reason we could not hear Seema's audio is because I was doing a lot of streaming and broadcasting on a different Twitch channel. I had my audio all set up and my virtual audio cables all crossed for a different setup because I was doing something completely different for about the past week.
And now for something completely different.
So there's our drop-in for the week.
The best ever.
And now for something completely different. What have we been doing that has been completely different? We've been doing a ton of events. Events in Star Wars The Old Republic, but also events in pretty much every other game. So we've talked about it in the lead up. We talked about it on last week, which was no, we didn't. Did we? No, it wasn't. Yeah, we talked about it last week when we were sort of in the middle of it. And we talked about, but we didn't sort of give a wrap up. So that's where we're at. We're at the wrap up of our summer events for Alea Iacta Est, the Guild. So remember, we're this big, giant, hundreds of people in a multi-guild, multi-game gaming community, very large, once a week in the summer, centered around August 2nd. Whatever 2 weekends on either side of August 2nd come up. We have a week in the summer we call Summer of Love. It's a big tradition and why it's called that. But it's our week of events. And we have events in pretty much every single MMO that we play. So going down the list here, in fact, I'll bring up, we've got a summary blog post up on aie-guild.org that shows the list of all the things that we did, was in the schedule. And I talk about all the games and events that we had. Including our August 2nd Remembrance Day, which is the sort of the most special part of the week. But I was doing a bunch of streaming, and a bunch of other people were doing streaming and recording of all the events in all of these games that we play. So we wanted to touch on all of those events in all the games, but most especially in Star Wars, and talk about some of the other events we've had in Star Wars over time, Star Wars The Old Republic, and how that works and why they're interesting and how they compare and contrast to some of the other games. But even some of the things that maybe we have planned for the future. Um, this is this was fun. So this was a fun week. What's your summer review of the week? I'll bring up the original schedule here while we're talking to Seema.
So
You,
the games that I visited were Star Trek Online, where we hung out on the beach and flew around an island and did like treasure hunting and um, other little contests, which was really a lot of fun. And I got to wear sandals. You know, that was part of my beach wear. Um, then I spent time in Guild Wars 2, which I have actually played before, and I had like a level 50 some character, which is like not high level there anymore. But that is a very complex game too, so I was very it took me a while to get my bearings there. But it's a beautiful game, very artistic. I really like the look of it.
and we were fighting things there. So Star Trek was a
Yeah.
beach party for a summer event in
Yes.
Star Trek, which is called whatever. It's the summer event on Ryza. We kept saying
On
Rishi,
Ryza, not Rishi.
but it's like a beach party, and every 15 minutes there's another event. You can do the hoverboard race, and you get token, you get like currency that you can turn in to get the prizes and things like that, and the dance
And
party. And
I had to play the game to get up to level 10 so that I could come to the beach party.
oh
And
yeah.
in the little introductory game part, um, I got to go on a mission with Chekhov. So that was pretty cool.
But you didn't have to do any of the high, sort of serious business fighting, which we did in Guild Wars.
Yes.
So that
Yeah, in
that
Guild
was
Wars
interesting.
we ran all over the world. Well, it seemed like it to me anyway, killing big bosses, and they were big group events, so that was a lot of fun.
And they were big. I mean, they were world bosses, and they were big physically, or
Like
like
physically big.
in the
Like
guild too, or in the game
yeah,
too. I mean, like that giant
yeah.
that dragon fight was really cool. I mean, big giant dragon, bigger than
My screen, bigger than my screen.
like as big as Isaac's at least. Um,
Yeah, I would say, yeah.
yeah, probably as big as Isaac's. Uh,
One thing that was cool about that, I wish we had in SWTOR was you just had to be in the area. Everyone in the area who was fighting him was getting credit for completing the event.
right.
And I wish we could have that in
Multi-tag,
SWTOR.
multi-pass. We should have that in Star Wars,
Pass.
please. Yeah, and which was really important there as well, because there was probably 50, at least 50 people fighting all these world bosses as we sort of did the rotation.
Yeah,
At least
yeah.
50. In Guild Wars, there's only one server, and these bosses spawn on a rotation. I think they respawn something like every 90 minutes or something like that, or 2 hours. But there's a whole bunch of them, and you could basically, and we kind of did, every 8 or 10 minutes go from boss to boss to boss to boss and never run out of things to do. So it seemed like the people that were into it for that evening, there were like 50 to 80 people going from boss to boss fighting all these world bosses, which was interesting. Whereas when we do world boss nights in Star Wars, sometimes
It's the opposite. You have to go where there aren't any other
you
people.
have to go where there aren't any other people. You need to be in an ops group. You can only have up to 24 people then max, and you have to hope that they're up. So on weeks like this, when or on a conquest week where Trapjaw is a conquest objective, you might go the whole week and never see them because everybody's trying to go there and everybody's guild is trying to go farm it. And you might, even though there might be 3 or 4 maps, you might check the PvP map and it's never up. That sort of sucks.
And one thing I noticed in Guild Wars 2, I didn't know what people were looking at, but they knew when the boss would be
Yeah, they
available. They would
did.
say, well, so and so in 10 minutes or 12 minutes will be up, and people would start, heading in that direction. I mean, that's kind of a yes and no kind of a thing too, because like, do you, there's some plus to like the randomness of like you never know when it's going to be there, but there's also plus to always knowing it's going to be there.
Right. Yeah, I was wondering. I meant to look that up. I was wondering if there was a website or something in game. I don't know, but everybody knew which one to go to next, and everybody was showing up there. So that was fun. Uh, Tuesday. Well, we skipped over Saturday, which we certainly did. I think we talked about it last week though, which was our our ancient threat
Our
fight.
own stuff. Yes,
Yes,
yes, we did talk about that last week.
which is a really cool kind of special version of a world boss fight, which I like that in Star Wars, where in addition to it just being a world boss fight, there's a little bit of prep. There's a sort of a little bit of like attunement going on, and there's a little bit of build up and discovery and figuring out how to make it happen and then making it happen. Now we didn't end up killing the ancient threat, but we got to figure out how to do it, and we got to summon it a bunch of times and try it out. So I thought that was kind of cool.
So if multi-tagging isn't a possibility for SWTOR, maybe they could do things like make the world bosses summonable so that you could take your team there and be assured that you'd have a fight when you got there. Like the boss on Tatooine, the world boss on Tatooine, you summon by hitting that stone. Well, maybe you just have the stone be clickable all the time.
Mm-hmm. Nightmare Pilgrim.
I was gonna say, can you hear me? Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yes, Nightmare Pilgrim, like Nightmare Pilgrim, exactly.
that makes sense. They should just make every boss like Nightmare Pilgrim, which they really could, because most of the or at least a third of the world bosses already are summoned by clicking a blue thing, which we all have done in our lives. When you get to the first time you're walking through Terrace and you say, "Oh, look, this must be a lore object," and you click on it, and some big worm comes out of the ground and eats you in one bite. Why don't they just
I
make those infinitely clickable?
Yeah, I mean, and this is my compromise for not being able to have multi-tag or area grouping or things like that. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
I
Trapjaw.
think that would work
Trapjaw
better.
is you click on the skull and there's like those 5 dead Jawas and there's a skull. Just make the skull not despawn and anybody can click on it, as long as Trapjaw's not up. Yeah, do that. All right. So then that brought us to Tuesday. Tuesday was World Quest Party for World of Warcraft. We could kind of do that in Star Wars, couldn't we? We could do a Dantooine World Quest Party. We would have to break up
Yes,
into groups. We could do an Osis World Quest,
which we had to do in WoW as well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You have to break up into groups. So I guess that would kind of work. In fact, I was thinking we could have done that tonight to get people to get their 10 dailies done in Osis for the couple people that we need to continue to gear up.
But
So that
that
kind of
but you
thing would
bring up a
work.
good point. We could do Osis World Quest. I mean, an Osis Quest night thing because those quests you can do in an ops team.
You're right, you can. Although you won't, you can do them while you're in an ops team, but you can't, the whole ops team can't do them all at once in one place. Because it's still, if someone else tags it and they're not in your group of 4 in the ops team
Oh,
frame, it
I
to
guess.
kill Razor Jaw or whatever those two guys
Yeah,
are.
yeah,
Scarface and Razor
that's true.
Taserface or
I
whatever
guess the
the
reason it I guess the reason it works when you go there is you join an ops team, but everybody's all over the planet.
yeah, they're
So
not
that's
near
why.
you.
Yeah, okay.
And
Never
there
mind
have
then.
been a couple conflicts where other people that are also in the ops team are in my area killing Taserface, the bug, and I didn't get a credit, and it was frustrating. But okay, we could do that kind of event. And they wanted, that was a good event in World of Warcraft. Our guild has just started to get our guild in World of Warcraft is 12 years old, from launch. One of the oldest. Used to be the biggest World of Warcraft guild in the world. May not be the biggest anymore, but it's still quite large. Uh, we were for forever, for 12 years now, only on the Horde side, and just in the last 6 months have added an Alliance side guild, which has been a unique experience for everyone to finally get a home for their Alliance alts. But we wanted to get some of the Alliance World Quest stuff going on and have something to do on the Alliance side during this week, so that was fun. And that led to, also on Tuesday after the WoW Alliance World Quest party, was the Star Wars Mandatory Fun Night Special Edition. And what we were doing there, that was our first round of Data Crowns, right?
Right.
I think
Yeah, that was
Data
fun.
Crowns is a good event. There's always somebody who needs some of them, and it's a good opportunity for everybody to sort of come together and help each other out. My favorite Datacron to do, which we haven't done yet, but we're planning for a future event that will make a community event, a server-wide event, is the Fleet Datacron. Most of us
Yes.
have it, but that's a cool Datacron to get. I'm sure.
Are you sure you have it?
Probably not. It's a bug.
No, I know
It's a
you have
bug.
it.
That's why the Tatooine Datacron. That's why I'm not a Tatooine Datacron master. It's really cool though, because there's a couple ways to shortcut it. In fact, on the Republic side, there is a confirmed way to do it with one single character, or with one single player. You have to do it on two characters on your account. You have to log out of one and log in on another one really quick. You have to flip back and forth, get yourself into a special place, and with one of your characters, you light up one of the mag locations, and then you log into the other one real quick, and you do the mag gun to get over the MGGS to get over to the other location. You can get the Fleet Datacron solo on the Republic side. Nobody's sure if you could do it on the Imperial side from just the random stuff I was looking up. The real way to do it is, I think, a minimum 6 players to do it the way it's supposed to be done, which includes 3 players.
How do you get across the bridge with just one player?
You
though?
don't. You just ignore the bridge. You hop.
Oh, I
You gotta
see.
like
Okay.
hop over on the side. You're walking on the wall. And there's
Oh, I see. Okay.
some stuff. There's a couple videos out there that show you how to do it. But that's not the fun way to do it. The fun way to do it is the real way, which is you do it with at least 6 people, and then everybody's got an MGGS, and you have to use 3 people to open up the bridge so that people can get across, and the people on the other side open up the bridge so the other people can get across. And then you position everybody in all the right places to press all the right buttons at all the right times, and then everybody presses all their buttons, and it opens up the location where you can use the MGGS to get up to the final spot. And once you're there, then you can be pulling everyone else up and get everybody to the door where everybody can go get their Datacron, which is really cool. It was a really cool, especially back in the day when you wanted to do it on all of your characters, and every time you rolled an alt, you would potentially want to do it again. It was something we'd organize every once in a while to just redo and go do. And when we did it, we would yell out in general chat on the fleet, hey, for the next 30 minutes, anyone on the fleet, come to the museum on the Gav Daragon or whichever the ships it's on, and we will get you. We'll pull you up. We'll use our Sorks to pull you up, and we'll get you the plus 10 Datacron if you don't have it. And we would just nonstop for a half hour, 45 minutes, be pulling people up and getting them the Datacron. They'd log out. They'd go to another alt. We'd get them in there. So it's something we'll do again. Now that they're legacy wide, we don't need to do it, over and over and over again. But it's still something cool, and it's a cool server event. Did you do you did the Kirin Tor Tavern Crawl in World of Warcraft?
Yes, I did. And that was a purely RP thing. We went from inn to inn. It's actually a micro holiday in WoW where we would go to a tavern, and then there would be a special drink there, as well as all the drinks they normally have there. And then there was a mage that would port you to the next tavern. So you literally went from tavern to tavern to tavern.
Mm-hmm. You're right.
And it was a fun able to get their various toys out and play with things. And one of the taverns had a hot tub
Filled with monkeys
filled with monkeys.
who would ook you in the duker if you weren't careful.
Yeah, whatever that means.
Never knows what it means. Use your
I've just gotten
imagination.
disconnected from the game like the sixth time since we started the podcast, so I'm just not logging back in.
I see you standing right here. That's interesting.
I know, and I can hear you on Discord, but I've gotten dropped out of the chat room each time too.
Thanks, Comcast. I don't know if you have Comcast, but that's what
Yeah, and I
say.
don't even have Comcast. It was clearly
But that's
yeah, it's
interesting
weird.
description. So you described that in an interesting way. It is an RP event. It's pretty much just an RP event, but it's a game supported, developer supported RP event.
Right.
And
With yes, it's
and
not
they have a
player
bunch of
content
these.
in the same way. Yeah.
Yeah, they have like the balloon ride thing. They have, well, even like El Dia de Muerte. The Day of the Dead festival is sort of
Day of
that
the
way.
Dead. Yeah.
Pirate Day is sort of that way. It's just like a little RP thing. There's no like dailies or gotta go, do a quest or do an operation or anything like that. But it's a lot of these cool little micro RP supported events. That would be
Yeah.
cool to
I
have.
call I call them RP because you don't get an achievement. There's no gear drops, no pets or mounts or anything. You just do it for the fun of it and for interacting with other people.
I guess the snowball stuff, although there's a little bit of rewards and prizes that are associated with it, but I feel like the thing for Life Day is about as close as we've got to that kind of thing in Star Wars. And I like how everybody gathers, and that's why we're sort of here on the podcast, because this is the location for a lot of in-game events for us is Nar Shaddaa. So if you haven't experienced Life Day, when Life Day starts, you can either use snowballs or the snowball launcher, and you can come here on Nar Shaddaa, and there'll be overheated droids, and if you throw snowballs at the overheated droids, you have a chance of getting snow-covered parcels, and potentially hollow Life Day trees, and you can turn in those snow-covered parcels for things. But because everybody's trying to do it, and that's all multi-tag also, that's interesting too. So you do get
Oh yeah, it is.
spontaneous community stuff where everybody's here on Nar Shaddaa, everybody on the server that's interested in doing it gathers together on Nar Shaddaa, and we'll start calling it out and forming up groups and saying, hey, there's one on the promenade, on the upper deck on the left. Everybody come, come join here. We'll throw the snowballs at this one. And then everybody spreads out and tries to find the next overheated droid. So yeah, there's kind of one example of that. They should put more of those in, because that's a really nice thing. It's a fun thing,
I
and
think you can
people together.
you can sort of argue that strongholds are like that, especially if you put things in there like the dance floor, because an RP thing to do is have a dance party, but it's supported with
Yeah,
an actual item and how it works.
which is true. Which leads me to the other thing that we had on that Wednesday night, which was in Final Fantasy, which was closer to that we've done before. Basically, it was the free company, which is the guild structure inside of Final Fantasy. We have a free company house in Final Fantasy, and that's pretty much what the whole MFN was to go to the free company house and hang out there, check out the free company house, the free company, the FC house is on a beach. So we had a little beach party. We've done those kinds of stronghold parties in Star Wars: The Old Republic. In fact, even for the end of I think it was the end of the MFN, we went to, no, it was the end of Remembrance Day. We went to the stronghold, and we had our fireworks festival in the stronghold, in Corley's Tatooine stronghold. But a couple different games, a couple different MMOs have that idea of like a guild house or a personal house, and the ability to use that as a location for fun events. I like that. ESO did the same thing. So Friday was our Remembrance Day. We have a very solemn event where I think we've described that a couple times, where we're talking about
Yeah.
people that are no longer with us. The ending of that event is usually some kind of march or walk where we do a little bit more reminiscing and talking about fun times in the past and talking about all of us as family. And then there's like a little bit of a party at the very end. And a bunch of the games did those parties at that kind of guild house or kind of location. So we did that in Star Wars, and fireworks as often as we can are part of those events in all the games. In World of Warcraft, you use one of the crafting skills to create the fireworks, and the team that created the fireworks in World of Warcraft created 5,000 fireworks that ended up getting fired off over Orgrimmar. In Star Wars, we have it a little bit easier. Corley had a bunch of the fireworks fountain decorations, and he set them all up, and it ended up turning out really well. And I thought it was so
Yeah,
cool
it
how
did.
he did it. In fact,
It was very
I
beautiful.
think I have a picture here. He set them all up so that they would fire off down below the balcony in his Tatooine stronghold, and we could all be up sort of like in a party area on the balcony looking down below. And if you're not looking like up in the sky above those fireworks, the anniversary fireworks decos, they do the big burst way up in the sky. So us overlooking the
Yeah.
balcony like this, it worked. It was perfect. It worked out really well. So I was really happy with the way that turned out. So I like that kind of thing where that structure is available to have a little bit of that RP kind of capability in an MMO. Star Trek, we've got our fleet. What is it called? It's our fleet Star Dock or whatever it is. We've got one in Star Trek. In ESO, you don't get a guild house in ESO, but you do get a lot of personal houses. And we set up an account that's named with the account name and character name AIE Guild, and made that the guild house. So they did tours in ESO. There's no houses. WoW doesn't have that really, do they? That's why we do our march to the back gates of Orgrimmar. Guild Wars, we do have a big guild house, which is a zone basically with travel points across it, and the ability to sort of build up and develop parts of the zone into. There's like a tavern, and the tavern starts out as sort of like a simple bit of ruins, and as you level it up within your stronghold area, it gets built out. I thought that's a really cool effect. And then Eve has got a whole separate set of. We
And the
always
Guild
roll
Wars
our eyes
too,
at
that
Eve.
place was huge. It was like its own zone.
Yeah,
It
right.
was really big.
And then Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings, we have our what is the guild called in Lord of the Rings? Our
Is it called a guild hall? Meeting hall?
no, our fellowship
Fellowship.
house. Our
Yeah.
fellowship house in
Because Fellowship of the Ring, yeah.
because it's the fellowship. Our fellowship house in Lord of the Rings is all decorated out, and I've got a doing it. Do I have a picture of that? Where's my picture of that? My favorite thing in Lord of the Rings is the band.
Yes.
There we
the
go.
band.
That's us. This little hobbit there is Seema. This is me jamming on my lute of ages. And the best thing about Lord of the Rings and this stage and doing this kind of thing is there's a music system, and it works two ways. If you type /music while holding an actual instrument, the keys 1 through 9 become a keyboard, and they actually play the different notes in a scale. And you can do sharps and flats by doing controls and alts. But also, there's a set of, they're kind of like almost MIDI files. You can code up songs into those MIDI files and load it in an add-on plugin, and hit play, and your instrument will play out what's in that MIDI file. And you can even sync up with multiple players and multiple different instruments to have basically a coordinated multi-part harmonized concert that you're putting on with your band. And that's just just my favorite thing in Lord of the Rings. We do not have that in Star Wars. I do have my cool fake instruments that I can play. What do I have? I have
Yeah,
there
yes,
we go.
we do have, right.
Look at me jamming out. Except it doesn't actually make any music, and I can't play custom music on it. So let's get that added in.
And you're really only pretending to play.
I am. I'm a faker. I'm a faker who's faking faker who fakes. Get out of here. So that's me.
Well, I mean, literally, that's what the system says. You pretend to put on a show with your holosantha.
Oh, it even calls me out. You pretend to put on a really you got to call me out that way.
That's what I.
Oh,
Because it's not an audible for the rest of us.
rude. Rude of them to call me out that way. So, lots of different kinds of events. We had a bunch of those cool kind of events in all the games. We can do a lot of those different kinds of events. In addition to some of the standard events we've done in Star Wars over time. We've made up events in Star Wars. Other guilds have made up events in Star Wars, like pod racing. I think it was Wookiee Alliance who had a really good version of pod racing on Ilum that I participated in. They basically set up a map that they identified a bunch of points on the map that you had to make sure that you drove around in your pod racing. And we did pod racing on the fleet, didn't we? Marcus had that set up for one of the megas.
Yeah.
So that was fun. Where in the galaxy is SEMA San Diego? Was fun. My favorite, most epic event that we've ever done in Star Wars, and we've done multiple times, and now we're starting to do in other games, is what we call the Amazing Race. So we'll wrap it by re-describing. I know we've described it other times before. In fact, we've probably done a podcast just on the Amazing Race. But that's my favorite event, because it's so inventive, and I think you probably could do it in any MMO. And if you've ever seen the show of Amazing Race, the way it works is either by yourself or in a team, and we've tried it multiple different ways. But the race starts, you get a clue for a location you're supposed to go to. You get to that location, you find the person you're supposed to find at the stop, the roadblock or the stop at that location. And then oftentimes in this show, at least, then there would be some sort of challenge before you got the clue to go to the next location. So the challenge might be, a pie eating contest, or, or something weird that's specific to the locale. You need to build a traditional yurt or whatever it might be, wherever you are in the world. We did this in Star Wars. We did it multiple times in Star Wars. One time we did it, and it took 4 weeks, and it was every Tuesday for our mandatory fun night for 4 weeks in a row, or maybe it was 3 weeks. We had multiple stops that night, and then the race picked back up the next night. And whoever got to each stop first got points. Whoever achieved the challenge at that stop got points. And the challenge might be duel an officer. And if you win, then you get points. Or answer the trivia question. If you win, then you get extra points. And along the way, then you were building up points, and it was really whoever had the most points at the end was sort of won the overall Amazing Race. But then you could also have winners on each of the nights and at each of the stops. And it was a really fun way to have a really, as elaborate as you want or as simple as you want, race event built into the game with both challenges and people trying to run around the whole galaxy and experience locations. I still think for me, that's the most epic version of any in-game event that I've ever participated in. What about you, Seema?
Well, it was certainly epic in the amount of time and prep required, and also over time how long the event itself took. I mean, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now we've done
But
2-hour
I like
versions of that event as well, though.
yes,
So
yes,
you can do it
yes,
shorter, and you can do it in one night.
yes.
And
That's much more doable.
I think we'll probably end up doing this event probably in the next few months as well.
I hope so.
Again, and we'll probably end up doing a one night version of it. But you know, if part of the event, if you need it to be multiple weeks, you could do. You have to go ride the balloon on Tatooine, and
Yes.
that in and of itself can take hours. So there's ways to stretch it out and make it a real challenge. All right. We wanted to clear the decks. We wanted to talk about some news. We wanted to talk about our event week, which was epic. We wanted to talk about events in Star Wars. Hopefully the decks are cleared now and prepare us for the PTS. We want to do a deep dive. We're hoping to do that Tuesday. Hopefully that's what's going to come next for the Star Wars Escape podcast, the SWTOR Escape podcast. BioWare, please get the PTS up, and then don't take it
Yes.
down. Don't
Yeah,
take it down
right. Don't
on
take it
Monday.
down just in time for our podcast, please. Special request.
I promise to test and provide feedback and be a good citizen. But yeah, give us the PTS. We'll make it work. Okay.
Make it so.
So with that, I think we can kick EPC 304 out of an airlock to broadcast this podcast episode to all of you. Please keep up with us on Twitter at Max the Gray and at AIESEMA. And if you know any cool people that should be playing with us, tell them to check us out. Tell them to come find our podcast on YouTube, New Overlords, twitch.tv/New Overlords, or come find our guild on aie-guild.org. They can find our guild Discord there. They can jump in Discord and say, hey Max, hey Seema, hey any officer in our LFO channel or our SWTOR channel in Discord, I have a character on Starforge. I'd like an invite, and we will get you set up. And with that, we will talk to you later.
Later, everyone.